Good morning, students. Welcome to the e-learning platform initiative launched by Department of Collegiate Education. In today's session, let us learn about body organization. Here in this slide, I've tried to give you a gist about body organization. Here, the cells, they perform some activity. So, such cells, they aggregate together to form tissue with a specialized function. Several such tissues aggregate together to form organ, and several such organs coordinate with each other to form the organ system, and several such organ system comprises an organism. So this is what is known as body organization. Coming to the recap of the previous class. In the previous class, we learned about symmetry and the different types of symmetry. The first was asymmetrical symmetry, that is the one with no symmetry, that the one which is seen in poriferans and amoeba. The second type was spherical symmetry, which we see in protists like volvox, etc. And radial symmetry, as seen in starfishes and coelentrates. And then the next type was biradial symmetry, which is a combination of both radial as well as bilateral symmetry, which is seen in cnidarians. And the last one was bilateral symmetry, that is when cut along one single plane gives rise to two equal halves, as seen in most animals including human beings, insects, etc. What is the learning objective of today's chapter? Basically, the objective is to understand the complexity of animal body organization and to learn about the different levels of organization that is seen in animals. And by the end of the chapter, the student will be in a position to identify the level of organization in any given organism. Coming to the introduction, organization is the arrangement of smaller components of any structure into larger ones and so on in a hierarchy. In animal kingdom, protozoans exhibit protoplasmic grade of organization, and metazoans, that is multicellular organisms, they exhibit higher level of organization like cellular grade, tissue grade, organ system grade. And here in this picture, I've tried to explain the same. Here, the first stage is organ cell, that is in single-celled organisms like, say, kingdom protozoa. There, the grade of organization is called as protoplasmic grade because they're single-celled organism and a single cell does all the function in its protoplasm. So therefore, it is called as protoplasmic grade. This is seen in phylum Protozoa. And the next level is cellular grade. This is what is seen in metazoans or multicellular organism, where cells do the function. In case of cells, best example is sponges, where the phylum Porifera has this grade of organization. Therefore, it is called as cellular grade. Such cells, they aggregate together to form tissue with a specialized function. So such grade of organization is known as tissue grade of organization, as seen in phylum Coelentrate. Example include hydra, jellyfishes, and so on. Several such tissues, they again aggregate together to form an organ. So that level of organization is known as organ grade of organization, which is seen in phylum Platyhelminthes. Example include planaria, dugacia, and other flatworms like sheepworm, hookworm, tapeworm. And several organs, they coordinate with each other to form an organ system. So it is known as organ system grade of organization, and it is seen in phylum Annelida, Arthropoda, and so on, including human beings. So these organ systems, several organ systems, they form an organism or an animal. So this picture gives holistic view about body organization. Let us now learn in detail about each grade of organization. First one is the acellular or the protoplasmic grade of organization. So unicellular organisms like protozoans, they exhibit this grade of organization. All the like functions are confined within the boundaries of single cell. Within the cell, the protoplasm is differentiated into organelles which are capable of performing specialized function. Since the organelles do this, not the entire cell, not the cell as such is doing it. It's only the organelle which is specialized is doing this. It is therefore known as acellular grade of organization. Here also the division of labor can be seen. In the image you can see amoeba, euglena and paramecium, which are examples for acellular or the protoplasmic grade of organization. Second one is the cellular grade of organization. So, cellular grade of organization is the lowest level of organization that is seen in metazoans or the multicellular organisms. It is exhibited in sponges, that is phylum Porphyrium. Individual cells, they differentiate during development to perform special function, that is pinacocytes, coinocytes, porocytes, thecocytes and scleroblasts. It is the single cell which is getting differentiated into specialized cells, or the cells which are meant to perform special functions. So therefore, it is an example for cellular grade of organization. Here also division of labor can be seen, and nerve cells and sensory cells are absent. So different types of cells are functionally isolated and true tissues are totally lacking. These cells are not strongly associated to perform any specific collective function. Here in this image you can see the single cell which is getting differentiated into coinocytes, into spicules, amoebocytes, etc. So therefore it is an example for cellular grade of organization. Next, the third type is the tissue grade of organization or the diploblastic organization. Cnidarians, that is the coelentrates, they exhibit this kind of organization. And here in coelentrates, nerve cells and sensory cells are present, which is actually absent in sponges. The cells that are performing similar functions are highly coordinated and they aggregate into what is known as tissues. The functioning of different tissues is also coordinated. Here in the image you can see sea anemone and jellyfish, which are examples for cnidarians or phylum Coelentrata. The tissues are not assembled into organs. If it were to be assembled into organs, it would have been an example for organ grade of organization. Here the embryonic ectoderm gives rise to epidermis, which is the outer layer of the body wall, and endoderm gives rise to gastrodermis, that is the inner layer of the body wall that lines the gut or the stomach. Between the epidermis and gastrodermis, a non-cellular layer called mesoglia is present. So that is between ectoderm and endoderm, there is no mesoderm. If it were to be mesoderm, it would have been called a cellular layer and it would have been an example for triploblastic animal. But since the middle layer is mesoglia, which is non-cellular, we still consider Hydra and other members belonging to phylum Coelentrata as diploblasts. And now the fourth type, that is the organ grade of organization. It is also known as the tissue organ grade of organization. The aggregation of tissues into organs is a further step in its complexity, and organs are usually composed of more than one kind of tissue and have a more specialized function than tissues. Platyhelminthes are the first bilaterally symmetrical acoelomate metazoans to have reached the tissue organ level of organization. So from Platyhelminthes, you can see the organ grade of organization. Here in the image, you can see Planaria, which is an example for Platyhelminthes, which shows organ grade of organization. They have a number of well-defined organs such as eye spots. Here in the image you can see the eye spots, which are organs. So therefore they are an example for organ grade of organization. You also find proboscis and gonads. They are also triploblastic because they have a third or the middle cellular germ layer called as the mesoderm, which lies between the outer ectoderm and the inner endoderm. So between ectoderm and endoderm you have a middle cellular layer called as the mesoderm, which is present from Platyhelminth onwards. And moving on to the final type, that is the organ system grade of organization, which is also known as triploblastic grade of organization. Triploblastic animals, that is the animals with 3 germ layers, they exhibit this organ system grade of organization. All the tissues are derived from 3 germ layers, that is outer ectoderm, middle mesoderm and an inner endoderm. The evolution of mesoderm resulted in structural complexity, and the tissues are assembled into larger functional units called as organs, which we have already learned. And organs are usually composed of more than one kind of a tissue and they have a more specialized function than tissues. And such organs, they come together, they work together and they perform one or more specific function to constitute an organ system. Organ systems are associated with basic body functions. There are 11 different kinds of organ system which can be seen in triploblastic metazoans, and they include integumentary system, skeletal system, muscular system, digestive system, respiratory system, circulatory system, excretory system, nervous system, endocrine system, immune and reproductive system. Highly specialized sensory cells are present, and they bring about higher level of coordination and integration of the constituent tissue, organs and system. So in the previous slide, I have given example of digestive system. So here you find within the organ system, you find different organs, say for example, mouth, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. So several organs, they are coordinating with each other to form an organ system known as digestive system. So similarly, the other examples include muscular system, circulatory system, and the respiratory system. So this is what is known as organ system grade of organization. This is another image to where in a single image you can see the 5 different levels of organization with explanation, which we have already learned now. So to quickly summarize, though animals are multicellular, the level of organization of cells varies from animal to animal, and certain animals have a loose mass of cells and show cellular level of organization. Such animals have been categorized in the phylum Porifera, and as we move on, the complexity of the body design increases and the division of labor occurs among the tissues. These animals exhibit tissue level of organization and they are classified as coelentrates. Phylum Platyhelminthes and Aschelminthes have an organ level of organization, whereas non-chordates such as annelids, arthropods, mollusks, echinoderms, and all chordates, including vertebrates, they have organ system grade of organization for their physiological activity. And even among these animals, the complexity varies. Yeah, now it's time to solve some multiple choice questions. The first question is, protozoans exhibit dash grade of organization. So we know protozoans, they are the lowest class. So therefore they have a very simpler organization and they have acellular grade of organization. So clearly the answer is protoplasmic grade of organization. If the option were to be acellular, still acellular would have been a right answer, because protoplasmic or acellular grade of organization is what we see in protozoans. Now the second question, which of the following is the correct order of organization in living things from most basic, that is simple, to most complex? So from the first slide also we have known what is the series of it. So the answer is cell, giving rise to tissue, giving rise to organ, giving rise to organ system, and then finally making up an organism. So this is the correct order and it is in option C. So therefore C is the right option. So cells, they aggregate together to form tissues, tissues aggregate together to form organs come together to form an organ system, and several such organ system is what is an organism is made up of. So this is the right sequence. Now the third question, a group of similar cells that come together to perform a specific function is known as. So here they're saying cells. What does cells aggregate into? Yes, exactly, tissue. So group of similar cells come together to perform one specific function known as tissue. So tissues are nothing but group of cells. Now the fourth question, the digestive system includes the stomach. So what level is the stomach? The answer is organ. So stomach is an organ and digestive system is organ system. So very clearly stomach is an example for an organ. And now the fifth question. Here we have a image of digestive system. So what is this digestive system example for? It is an example for organ system grade of organization. So therefore digestive system is organ system. See, here the hint is it is ending with system. Here also it is ending with system. So anything, if respiratory system is asked, again it is organ system only. So this is an example for organ system grade of organization. I hope this video was of great use to you, and thank you for your patience. Have a great day.